Ladies and gentlemen, the 2022 Stanley Cup Champions, Colorado Avalanche.
Life is fucking good, Jumbo. It only took us 2 years to finally get our ring. It took your team losing in the final. It took a lot of trials and tribulations from all of our teams otherwise than that. And boy, oh boy, we finally got a ship here. Man, it's been 20 years since or 21 years since the Colorado Avalanche have won a cup. It's been 6 years since the city of Denver has seen a Major Four sports team championship. Life is fucking good, man. Woo, boy.
Oh my goodness. It was one of those moments. Obviously, you were at the watch party for the Game 6 win when they clinched the cup. I was watching it at home with the crew that we'd been watching all of the playoffs with so far. I drug my family into hockey. You'd be proud. Even Ed was watching when we were hoping they were going to close out Game 5. Man, the Colorado Avalanche are back on the map. They are back. People remember, when you think of the Colorado Avalanche, you either remember the teams from the 90s where they hated the Red Wings and they were really good and into the early 2000s, or you remember the 2010s when they were like a laughing stock and EJ and Duchesne were running into each other in the back end.
And Patrick Wall was pulling the goalie with 10 minutes left in the game and a regular season game. Or
pushing the center glass over on top of Corey Perry, which, man, fuck Corey Perry. But, man, it was good to hand him his third cup loss in a row. That felt real good. I just don't want to sign him in the offseason, but we'll get to that. This is the Far End of the Bench, episode 97, celebrating a Stanley Cup championship. We'll have episode 98. That'll be the last of the 2 episodes a week. We might have 2 episodes again next week just to catch ourselves all the way back up. But the episode coming out Friday will be an in-person episode. First one is since the playoffs started, which now seems like forever and a half ago. I have a cleanly shaved face. You still are rocking the mustache. I still have the
mustache. It ain't going away. Everybody loves it. That's all I'll say is everyone loves it. I haven't heard one bad thing about it, so it's staying. This sucker is staying.
All right. And then to see that mustache, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow wherever you're listening to us right now, and be sure to leave a 5-star rating and a review. Tell a friend to check out the show. Be sure to follow us on social media as well at FEOTB Pod. That's where you can, if you want to meet up at the parade, if you're going to be there, we are both going to be at the Stanley Cup Championship Parade. We're going to be linking up. We're going to try and link up with the Tell It As It Is guys because Griffin came back into town for the parade. So we're going to see if we can link up with Christian and Griffin for that show. But it's going to be a ton of fun celebrating. I know I'm going to be enjoying a few. I'm sure you will probably be enjoying a few
of those Coors Light specialty championship ice beers or whatever they're having.
Gonna have Colorado Kool-Aid. I might just dump it over my
Whitney
head.
Shots too, a few couple here and there.
I had so many Pink Whitney shots over this playoff run. Every single playoff goal, like Spit and Chiclet said, got to do a shot of Pink Whitney, and we ended off a power play percentage of over 35%, which we're like one of 4 teams in history. So it fucking worked. It paid off. My liver hurts. It was, oh my God. Can we just, we'll kind of, I guess we'll talk about our feelings on the season now, but how gut-wrenching is it to have a team in the Stanley Cup Finals, whether you think they're going to win or not? Just like every single game, every single moment, you're up, you're down. I had to watch in the confines of my home, and my family joked like, everybody was asking why we didn't go to the watch parties, and my family goes, you've seen how he watches the games, like we don't need to bring that into public. So they had my back in that regard, but that was just the most amount of stress, as much stress as I had when the Bengals were in the Super Bowl and when they ended up losing or going down late. Like that was a lot. And you're right. I did have to give that up for the Stanley Cup Championship win, and I'll do it every single time because the Avs are my number ones. But
I'm just going to remind everybody, Jimmy did say before I asked him this question, you can go back, quote me on this. I said, Jimmy, would you be willing to give up this Bengals Super Bowl for an Avs one? And he said, yeah, he said, yes, I'll take a Bengals Super Bowl. Here we are, Avs won. Look, Bengals would have been nice, Jimmy, I know, but, this one feels just as good, I know. Because, look, I know the Bengals are your first love. We grew up playing football our whole lives, but to be in this city with everybody wearing burgundy and blue, and this city being painted with the A on it, it is nothing like it. There's nothing like it.
No, I said that I would trade the Bengals Super Bowl. I would rather them lose and have the Avalanche win every single time, because the Avalanche are the only team from my home state. I love Colorado, and the Avalanche are what represents Colorado. Everything good and bad.
I thought it might have went the other way. We might have to go back and fact check
we
those,
can't.
Either way.
I can go back. I remember the conversation clearly, because it was, you put me on the spot and had the two loves of my life put up against each other. But yeah, no, I came back to the Colorado Avalanche are where it began. Like, that's the most fanatical I get in watching sports. When they tied, we'll get into Game 5, but when they tied it in Game 5, I just had the guttural reaction, jumping up off the couch, running at the TV with my fists extended in the air, like, yes! That was like the emotion that I feel for this team, and the bond. Like, Dom and I, every single goal, when we're watching together, we high five and head rub. And if we're not watching in the same room, it's an emoji of the high five, like us, and the hand sign for the high five. It's just like a family experience. And this, I saw your dad post about it. He posted you in your Scott Parker jersey with the night that they won it, and he's totally right.
I ran out of jerseys. Well, best way to do it. I ran out of jerseys, and I had to bring a little bit of attitude to bring it home. So I had to rock the Scotty P one.
They brought that attitude. Let's talk about games 5 and 6, because we mentioned it last week. The Avalanche they had the upper hand. They were going to clinch. There was no way, as good as the Tampa Bay Lightning are, and kudos to them. All respect goes out to that Tampa Bay Lightning franchise, and most of the fan base is actually giving us our props, and they understand, like, as much as they think they can say the refs jobbed them and this and that, this was the first team and the only team that's been able to beat the Tampa Bay Lightning in the playoffs for the last 2 years. But games 5, we were going to have to play a perfect game to be able to close that out, and it would have been nice. You were in the building. Talk about the vibe in that building for the closeout game. Was there a noted difference? Because you went to the earlier playoff game in the earlier rounds, right?
That was the only playoff game I went to.
Only playoff game.
I've been traveling for the past fucking 2 months, unfortunately. So because people forget I was in Florida for the first half of this series. So I've been traveling all over across the country for work. So I haven't been able to go to a game. So that's my first Avs playoff game since fucking I want to say the series against San Jose in 2019. I think that was the last playoff game since then. But yeah, I had to give up my arm and leg for that ticket. I'll be honest with you, it hurt the paycheck. But even if we lost, it was 100% worth it. And look, there was like everyone. We both look. If you go back and listen to last Friday's episode, we both were preparing to win that game. Everyone was preparing to win that game. But then when we lost that game, for me, I can only speak from experience, because I know you probably were losing your mind and everybody else was. For me, experience, I wasn't panicking. Because if there's one thing that this Avs team has done, is that when they've gotten knocked down, they've gotten back up. It is the only team in playoff hockey history that has had 4 closeout games on the road where they were down in each game. Nashville, game 4, down, came back and won. St. Louis, in St. Louis, down game 6, came back and won. Edmonton, down game 4, came back and won. Game 6 Stanley Cup final, down, came back and won. This team, look, it is not pretty. Would it have been nice to see Lord Stanley come on the ice? Absolutely. I'm not lying. It sucked for us not winning that night. It was funny walking around downtown, though, seeing the poles greased and prepared for the worst. But, man, look, sometimes it doesn't work like that. And when you're facing the back-to-back champions, they're not going to lie dead for you. That's exactly what you saw in Game 5. Were there some calls that could have gone ticky-tacky? Absolutely there was. I thought it was funny that the game ended with a too many men on the ice call, because just the way Game 4 ended. I thought that was funny that they had to pull that one out, because you had to think if the Avs had 6-on-5 for 3 minutes, probably would have got one. It probably could have won Game 5, but to have that call to end Game 5 like that, it was funny. But I had no sense of worry. If we would have lost Game 6, I would have worried because then Tuesday night, as we're recording this, would have been the absolutely hell of a fucking night. Instead, we're celebrating, waiting for Thursday. So that's my whole thoughts on it. Game 5. Look, I said it all series long. We didn't get beat. We were our far better team this whole series. This team beat themselves when they lost. This team absolutely beat themselves when they lost. And that was the sense of Game 5. Look, the place was rocking. Everybody was losing their mind, but you still had one. You had to win one game with 3 chances. You didn't get it done the first time. And I don't know the exact stat, but I do remember hearing this. The last 3 Stanley Cup winners, I think maybe 4, didn't win it on their first try. They lost the first closeout game. They ended up winning the second one or third one or whatever it was, but it wasn't done on the first try, the first chance they had.
Going into Game 5, I wouldn't say that I was panicking, but there was definitely a level of pressure that was added to the situation because if you lose Game 6, this is a franchise in the Colorado Avalanche that have not been able to win a Game 7 in their last 3 tries. And the last time that they closed out a series at home in a Game 7 was 2008. This was a team that was a ghost. We'd already had to get over the second round ghost. We got through Edmonton. We were in this situation where we had a 3-1 stranglehold on the series. And yes, at the end of this game, there was pressure added to the situation. But this team, the way this team has been able to respond all season and never having a letdown, and we'll talk about it, 70-plus wins in an entire full NHL season for this team. This is a all-time great NHL squad that we just got privilege of watching.
One of the most dominant performances a franchise has ever had going through the Stanley Cup playoffs. But tell you what you want about Darcy Kemper. He only lost 4 times. And that is and most teams, it takes 30 games to win it all. It took this team 20 games. That's 2 sweeps and 2 Game 6s were in reality, both those series could have ended in 5. But it just the nerve of it, both those series of getting over the hump of the second round and getting over the hump of winning the cup was just a little too many nerves at the time. Obviously, the team overcame both of those, but we saw one of the most dominant performances, not only from a Stanley Cup winning team, but from a championship team in the 4 major sports. You think, look, obviously Super Bowls are one game each throughout the playoffs. But you talk about hockey, you talk about basketball, you talk about baseball, those 3 sports where they have 7-game series, you rarely ever see a team only go down under 5 times. If that happens, there was a clear winner and a clear team that was far better than the rest. That's exactly what you saw from this team.
Yeah, this one specifically, there was never a moment where the Avalanche were leading this game. They were playing from behind the entire time. Jan Ruda got it was going to take the Tampa Bay Lightning getting production from guys like Jan Ruda to be able to push this series, and that's what they got in Game 5. He gets the first goal assisted by Perry and Sergachev. Val comes back in the second period and scores to make it 1-1, and the Lightning finish that period off with a power play from Nikita Kucherov, who, by the way, we should talk about, not a great Stanley Cup Finals performance from Nikita Kucherov, a guy who's led the NHL in points for the last 2 seasons, absolutely disappeared. And I don't know if you saw the video of him at the bench at the end of Game 6, but if I was a Tampa Bay Lightning fan and Nikita Kucherov was on my team, I'd have some choice words for him at the moment.
Quitting on the team. Look, yes, the bench guy should have the stick, but if you're going to run over the bench, throw the stick, throw the gloves, and concede the feet with 30 seconds left, that's something. That's not nothing, okay? That's something. That's a guy that's not your leader, but Stamkos is your leader.
Stamkos is a fucking leader. Stamkos played his nuts off this series.
He's the reason why he wears a seal in the chest. But Kucherov, this is your quote unquote second best player, if not your best player outside Vasilevsky, and he throws that tantrum at the end of the game. Like I said, there's a reason why I was so confident in this team after Game 4 was because you broke their will. That was a man whose will was broken. Because if you look at the tilt of that ice, Tampa could not hold on to the puck. It was that whole third period, that 20 minutes felt like a fucking 3 hours long, but it's not as if Tampa had chances. They didn't have a shot in that third period until the 11-minute mark.
I mean, even in game 5, like they held the lead the lead for most of it, and Andre Palat gets the game winner towards the end there, and you'd like to see Darcy Kuemper make that save. But the Avalanche had every right to win game 5. Like they could have very easily been able to close this thing out, and we could have been having this discussion and getting prepped for a parade today instead of on Thursday, which I wouldn't have enjoyed as much. But that was like the entire story of the series where everybody said Tampa Bay was a better 5-on-5 team. We saw it in game 5. They were assisted by a couple of shit.
That was a good joke.
They were boosted by a couple of shit penalty calls, in my opinion. Like the Lightning got the fair shake from the referees after John Cooper came out and made his little bullshit whiny. We talked about it on last episode. We don't have to go back to it. But the referees made the calls in the Tampa Bay Lightning's favor, and they took advantage of it. And then Andre Palat, who's had big goals, like they said he had 6 game-winning goals in the last 3 minutes of the game throughout this playoff run. It was incredible. We talked about Kadri playing himself into a massive contract. Andre Palat is going to get paid probably by Philadelphia, and he's going to go be the first line center on the Flyers,
or go to Seattle or go somewhere else that will someone just throw a bag at him because he's won 2 cups. He's done it. The last goal of his Tampa Bay Lightning career was the game winner in Game 5, and the last goal of Nazem Kadri's more than likely Avalanche career was the overtime winner in Game 4. Obviously, we'll talk about the offseason moves.
I don't want to see him go yet.
We don't want to see him go yet. He'll still have a trade. So, like I said, we'll talk about all offseason moves because right now we want to focus on what this team has done and we'll worry about next year because look, man, I could go down a list of guys. I mean, look, Joe Sakic as look, you can give John Elway all this fucking shit. Doesn't matter about what he's done the last 5 years. Him and Joe Sakic are the fucking Mount Rushmore of the city. You not only 1-2 as a player, you come back as a general manager, and Elway brings in Peyton Manning, and Joe Sakic conducts this full team and creates the masterpiece as one of the most dominant teams in NHL history. He did an absolute masterpiece of this team. Look at the depth of this team. It is the definition of built, not bought. I mean, you talk about a group of guys that were either searching for a cup or guys that were just basically thrown off the ledge of we don't want you anymore. Guys like Valentushkin that just came in perfectly. This team. It's hard to put in words.
Choo at one point was in the running for Conn Smythe. There was a stretch of this playoff series, like especially when Edmonton happened and Kadri did get hurt, Valentushkin stepped up, and the offensive production didn't miss a beat. And Nazem Kadri's a 30-goal scorer from the regular season who was leading your team on the second line even into the postseason. And yeah, the depth of this team, and I've found the tweet that I was looking for. These are just the moves that Joe Sakic made to build this team. Traded for Manson, traded for Cogliano, traded for Lehkonen, traded for Sturm, traded for Kemper, traded for Taves, traded for Kadri, traded for Girard, and ended up getting Byram with that pick, and then traded for Burakovsky. All guys that I had success. Like these were guys that were good pieces on their teams before they came into the Colorado Avalanche situation and were elevated just by the level of play. And we'll talk about Nathan McKinnon, but Nathan McKinnon being the way that he is going to elevate your play to another level. And they all bought into the fact that this was a team who was sick and tired. It goes back to the press conference Nate had at the end of last season after the Vegas loss. It's been 9 years in my career and I haven't won shit. Since that moment, this Colorado Avalanche team has had a death glare, and it was focused on that Stanley Cup. And they got to hoist it. They dented it within 5 minutes because now we get to move on to Game 6 and the 2-1 Stanley Cup championship. That did not start good. Didn't start that was an amazing play from Andre Palat. The fact that he slid down, kicked it, and it goes right to Stamkos' stick. Not a lot that you could do about that. I don't know why Darcy Kemper's legs were in the full split and then came together right as the puck was going through his legs. It's like he was in on it or something. First period, the Lightning get that goal. But then from then on, it was total domination from the Colorado Avalanche. They were in Tampa Bay zone the entire time, other than a couple of somewhat scary chances and Kucherov getting robbed on one of his one-timers by Darcy Kemper, who had to Darcy Kemper. He outplayed Andrei Vasilevsky. Darcy Kemper is a better goaltender in the Stanley Cup final in 2022 than Andrei Vasilevsky is.
That's saying a lot. Look, it was the only look they had in the third period, and I'm not going to sit here and act like that Stamkos money didn't help me out though, because I did take that FanDuel boost, a plus 480 boost for Stammer, Kucherov, Kale, and McKinnon to score the first goal. So I did win some money on this.
Jesus Christ! They gave you all of the guys that scored.
They gave me 4 guys, a plus 480 odds. So if you know, I jumped so hard on that. So I won money.
You should have hooked the brother up. You should have let me in on that.
So it still worked out, but no. Look. I said it. You can say whatever you want about Darcy Kemper. This team doesn't win this cup without Darcy Kemper, and doesn't win the cup without Frankie either. And look, this team doesn't get home ice throughout the playoffs, which obviously is second best record in the league. And like I said, all regular season long, it didn't matter if you were first, as long as you were first or second. That's all that mattered. And this team ended up getting it all throughout the playoffs, and that was because of Darcy Kemper. And look, Darcy Kemper made some moves and did some things that were like, come on, man, like you need to be better in there. But in the end, at the end all be all those demons that he had to overcome, he overcame them all. 4 losses, like I said, 4 losses in 3 series. Let's say 3 series, because he didn't play the Edmonton series. 4 losses in 3 series against a team that had one of the Norris candidates and Roman Josi and the Nashville Predators, a team that won a cup second most recently in St. Louis, and then against the god that is Vasilevsky in goal. You beat those 3 teams and you only come out with 4 losses. And 12 wins. That is enough to be said all be all. But there's going to be decisions to be made. But in my mind, look, Kemper stood on his head and did what needed to be done in the end. And look, you got to think, Kemper isn't on this team if you go back and sign Grubauer, right? Joe Sakic made that tough decision. He let Saad walk. He let Grubauer walk. He let those guys walk, and he brought back the guy with the C on his chest. And if you're telling me there isn't another person I wouldn't have wanted to lift that cup first, I don't care. There isn't another person that I would have wanted to go grab that cup first. We had so many conversations last offseason because we lost in the second round again, because we had all this. Do we bring back Landy? Do we this? Do we do that? There is another person that has epitomized what this Avalanche team has done the last 15 years, other than Erik Johnson and Gabe Landeskog. And it was nothing sweeter. And so what Kemper, all he needed to do was step in and make the plays when he did to. And that's exactly what he did, because the guys in front of him was going to make his life as easy as possible. And that started with number 92.
Yes, Landeskog, if that deal doesn't get done last offseason, the Colorado Avalanche are not near this situation. And, you know, the people who have been around him and the people who know how he plays and have watched him since he became the youngest captain in the NHL, when he took the time off after his surgery to get himself right for the playoffs, there was a feeling of like, oh, man, this guy – I mean, the casuals were thinking that it was going to hurt him. Honestly, in my mind, it was, oh, this guy's about to get himself ready for a fucking run.
Yeah.
And, oh, my God, did he have a hell of a fucking run. Scored some huge goals throughout this playoff run, none bigger than the couple that he scored in the Stanley Cup final. And we've talked about it for the last 2 years. I've talked about it for the last 3 years, is that the Colorado Avalanche have never had a front of net presence. And Gabriel Landeskog single-handedly, along with guys like Mikko Rantanen, who made a couple amazing passes in Game 6 where he was getting thrown to the ground, literally thrown to the ice, and somehow he chops his stick and it goes right from his tape to another person's tape, and McKinnon's got a one-timer goal. Oh, shit. And then he sets up that play where McKinnon and Manson go down the ice, and that's the game-winner goal, which Colorado Avalanche fans are going to know this sequence forever. Rantanen to Manson, Manson to McKinnon, McKinnon trying to go back to Manson to Lehkonen into the back of the net, beats Andrei Vasilevsky goal side, something that nobody does. The best glove in the game. There's How else could this Colorado Avalanche team win?
How
else? It had to be the best team that they could play. It had to be on their home ice in front of their nasty fans.
On that terrible sheet of ice.
And it had to be a come from behind. And then they had to play the third period. And to be honest with you, I was stressed because, one lucky bounce, and there was a lucky bounce that kept it out. We finally got a post that kept another shot out because we've been hitting so many goddamn posts. But other than that, there was not a ton of stress because the Colorado Avalanche have shown if they want to shut down the neutral zone after the St. Louis meltdown in Game 5, where they tried to go into shutdown mode and gave up the 3-goal lead, they were playing absolutely perfect defense when it mattered most. It was 6-on-5. And the Tampa Bay Lightning, I think, got maybe 2 chances on the rush and no scoring chances, no shots on goal. And you frustrated the best player in the world to the point where he took his gloves and threw them into the stands because he's like, fuck this, I'm done. I'm getting my ass embarrassed on national television and I'm fucking over it. Let me go back to the KHL and spend more of Putin's money because that's what he's thinking about doing in the summer. Number one bullshit like that. There's nothing else that can be said. This was the most difficult path this team could have taken after one of the most disappointing seasons in franchise history last year. That was on par with the 99 and the 2000 team going to the Western Conference Finals and losing in Game 7 at Dallas when they weren't being able to get over that hump before they got Borky and those guys. And credit to the guys that he brought in because Josh Manson, the guy that's behind me when you're watching this on YouTube, Bo Byram, the 21-year-old stud, stepping the fuck up when Sam Girard goes down. And no, you don't. When he comes back and he's playing on a pairing with Sam Girard, do you know how many nightmares those two are going to give teams in the NHL? Goalies are going to see fucking one-timers in their sleep. Those two are going to be an unreal pairing. And then you got Taves and Makar on your top. We will get to all of this because we can't go this entire podcast without playing the highlights. So we're going to let you guys hear Connor McGahey calling the Avalanche game winner. And then also their the final seconds when he announces that they win the Stanley Cup. So that's what we're about to throw it to here. Not much, there's not a whole lot else we could say about Game 6 other than it was fucking beautiful. It's one of those moments where you put in the time and the effort to stick with a team through the shit and the muck. And my first year when I was on the radio back in Gunnison on Gunnison Sports Talk Radio with Christian Saez, who's been a guest on this podcast, I sat down and said, the Avalanche suck. And they they're in the gutter right now, and they are the worst team. And that was what my conversations were when I first got into my broadcasting career. And now here we are standing on top of the mountain in the NHL. And it couldn't have happened to a better team, a better coach from GM top down, the organization.
Be careful with how far you go up the organization, Jim. That's all
he's won 4
I know
championships in this calendar year.
I'm aware of that, but the fucker still gives me headaches. He didn't win that. Joe Sakic did. So
Joe Sakic, I said GM down from the GM.
I know.
The Colorado Avalanche.
I just had to bring in that caveat.
Other than if you live in St. Louis, Minnesota, or probably Detroit, the Colorado Avalanche are the most likable franchise that you could root for because it's not a major market, but they're always good. They produce high-flying action, and damn if they don't produce championships. They're tied with the Broncos now for most championships pro championships in the city.
And look, they obviously have the best chance to be the team with the most.
Yes.
Obviously, the Broncos, we have Russell Wilson. Things are looking up, but there's nothing like this team in their state right now. There's no other team that can put on this type of performance in this state other than the Colorado Avalanche.
A hottest ticket in town, and they earned it with flying colors. It was amazing. Let's go and listen to Connor McGahey call the game-winning goal and the final seconds of the Colorado Avalanche 2022 Stanley Cup Championship.
Now they get tangled up again behind the play. 3-on-2 for the Avalanche. Manson, McKinnon. Back for Manson. Tapped over. Score! Oh! It's Arturi Lehkonen! It's a work of art! Lehkonen off the feed from Manson and McKinnon has tallied and gives the Avalanche a 2-1 lead. It's his 8th of the postseason. And there's lumber all over the ice. There's a broken stick in front of Vasilevsky.
It's Tampa Bay lumber.
It's Tampa Bay lumber because they slashed at Josh Manson as he was trying to skate away, and it was a full two-hander. McKinnon had it go off from McDonough. It bounced right for Arturi Lehkonen, and he beat Andrei Vasilevsky high glove side. 10 seconds now. Forecheck here from Cale Makar. It's all the way at the other end of the ice. 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second. It's over. They did it. They did it. The job is done. The Colorado Avalanche are Stanley Cup Champions. And they will lift Lord Stanley a mile high.
And Tampa Bay is still barking at their referee. It's over, pal.
They're pouring off the bench. Colorado has defeated Tampa in 6 games.